Well, I've owned my Royal Enfield Continental GT650 for a little over a year now. So hang out with me for a few minutes this morning while I take a ride on it and we'll discuss my thoughts, likes, and dislikes on the bike up to this point. What's up everyone? It's Alex. That's right, I've owned my Continental GT for over a year now, so it's time to do a 1 year of ownership update where I'm going to go over my likes, dislikes, and thoughts on the bike so far. And yes, spoiler alert, I will actually have a couple of dislikes on it, so stick around to the end of the video and I will do those last. While we're doing all that, I just figured I would pipe in riding footage so you've got something to look at aside from my face for once. So first things first, after owning the bike for a little over a year now and putting thousands and thousands of miles on it, I still have yet to have any major problems with the motorcycle mechanically or otherwise. I know I've got reports from all over the place on like maybe some gauge issues, some rust issues, things of that nature, but as of now, I have yet to have any major problems with the motorcycle. I do keep it in the garage, but I have yet to have rust or corrosion or any other issues like that start anywhere. I've had no mechanical issues whatsoever. I've really had no problems at all out of this motorcycle after owning it for 1 full year. After the initial break-in, it did smooth out even more in engine and transmission than it was to begin with, which is actually pretty incredible because it's pretty smooth to begin with. But I have yet to have any problems as of now. So as far as actual problems, defects, breakage, etc., I'm happy to report after a year, I've had no issues in quality and reliability has remained just as well as it was the day it rolled off the showroom floor. Aside from quality and reliability, let's go over the things that I still like about the motorcycle after owning for a whole year. I still absolutely love the engine on this thing. The parallel twin, just under 650cc engine that they went with for this thing is smooth enough, but has just enough character and just enough ruggedness to really maintain that kind of a visceral feeling that I want out of a classic motorcycle. One of the reasons I'm such a big fan of classic singles and classic twin cylinder motorcycles is they give you more of a visceral feeling and they feel more alive than a lot of modern motorcycles do. And I've come to really enjoy that, but I also still want the smoothness that goes along with, not rattling and shaking and buzzing myself to death when I'm riding the thing. So even after a year of ownership, I still think that the parallel twin power plant on this thing puts out a very good balance between smoothness, but having enough of a feel and enough visceral nature to it to keep me happy and keep me feeling like I'm riding a smooth vintage motorcycle, despite it being a completely modern design. As far as the transmission goes, after initial break-in, the transmission smoothed out even more, and I am still very pleased with how smooth the transmission is, while at the same time giving me a very good positive tactile feel when I do shift so that I know the shift was made in a nice, firm manner. So overall, the transmission still very smooth, gets the job done very well. I'm very happy with the overall working and everything of the transmission. We will get back to one thing on the transmission a little bit later on. Stay tuned for that. Overall fit and finish, handling, chassis, brakes, suspension, that kind of stuff. The brakes, as far as the brakes go on it, I am still very happy with the brakes. Are they anything to write home about as far as super high performance goes? No. Would they get the job done on a racetrack, like say racing it in a 650 Twin Series? Absolutely not. But do the brakes get the job done? Do they have enough stopping power? And does the ABS work well enough in real world situations on the street and on the road? Absolutely. I have had no issues whatsoever on the street feeling like the brakes were inadequate. So my verdict on the brakes is that they are perfectly good, perfectly adequate, and plenty enough for riding in street, road, real world situations. They are not meant to be raced with. If you were going to do something like that, you want to upgrade them. They are not super performance brakes, but they have enough braking power to get the job done in the real world, and I've been very happy with them so far. Same with the suspension. Is the suspension anything crazy, race ready, race worthy, or something I could take to a 650 Twin Retro Race Series? Absolutely not. But is the suspension adequate for riding in the real world, on the street, on the road? Absolutely. I have not felt like at my size, at my height, at my weight, etc. for the motorcycle that the suspension has been a problem whatsoever. It has been very adequate, and it has done everything I have asked it to do in the real world. It's plenty comfortable enough, it absorbs enough while not being too squishy. Keep in mind, I'm 5'9", about 165 pounds, so your mileage may vary based on size, But for my size and weight, the suspension has been perfectly adequate and has kept me happy in the ways that I ride this motorcycle in the real world. Chassis, body, overall fit and finish and quality, I have had no complaints with it. I know some people, when comparing Royal Enfield to things like Kawasaki Triumph or whatever, have said that they are not happy with the overall fit and finish. On this particular one, the one that I got, you know, maybe things are different on different people's bikes that they got. But as far as the one that I got, I've been very, very happy with overall fit and finish. I've not had rust issues. I've not had corrosion issues. My paint is very nice. All of my bodywork has stayed nice. It still looks good. It feels good. The chassis is good. Everything as far as quality level on the motorcycle, I am still to this very day very, very happy with, and I have not had quality issues or issues with anything as far as frame, chassis, bodywork. I've had no problems with any of that stuff. Electrical still works very well. I've had no electrical problems. I don't have issues with brightness of the headlights. The turn signals, they're just classic turn signals. They are what they are. The gauges work very well. I don't have issues with my fuel gauge or my speedometer or anything like that. The gauge cluster has continued to work very well from day one to right now. The fuel gauge seems fairly accurate. When I fill it up, it does hang just a little bit before coming down, but for the most part, the fuel gauge is fairly accurate. I use my trip meter anyway, but it has stayed fairly accurate. And overall, I am happy with the electronics, the controls, the gauge cluster, all those things. So overall, after a year of ownership, especially for what I paid for it, I am still very, very, very pleased with this motorcycle, and I have no plans to get rid of it anytime soon. Now, real quick, I'm going to cover a couple of things that I do dislike or that I would wish to see improved on the motorcycle if I had my way. But keep in mind, these are very small complaints, but in the interest of fairness, I will go ahead and say that I do wish the transmission on the motorcycle. It is a 6-speed transmission, which is fantastic, but I do wish that the top 2 gears were a little bit taller. The plus side is, the 6 gears being kind of short and kind of close together, it does help a lot with the overall acceleration and the feeling of peppiness for that 650 twin power plant. So the motorcycle does accelerate fairly well and goes through the gears very quickly as far as the acceleration goes. But when I'm on the top end, if I'm doing 70 or 80 miles an hour, I would like to see 5th and 6th gear, especially 6th gear, possibly be spaced a little more, be a little bit taller, so that maybe if I'm running 70, 80 miles an hour down the interstate, maybe I'll be turning a little bit less RPMs. I haven't really had a problem with it, but if I am doing higher highway speeds, I do feel like I am revving a little bit more than I would like to. It's a minor complaint, but in all fairness, if I had my way in a perfect world, I would like to see 5th and 6th gear be a little bit taller and maybe turn a little bit lower RPMs when I'm doing higher speeds on the highway would be one thing. The only other complaint that I would have, or the only other thing that I would like changed on the motorcycle, or that I would wish to change at all on the motorcycle, is the actual placement of the foot pegs. A lot of people will disagree with me on this, so I am perfectly ready for that. Go ahead in the comments below, let me know what you think, but I would actually have liked to see the foot pegs on this be even further back and even further up, like an actual true rear sets. Now, they did make the foot pegs, they're not in exactly a standard seating position. They are a little bit further back and a little bit better of a cafe position, but for my particular size and the way that I ride, with the way that the clip-ons are on this motorcycle, I would actually have preferred the foot pegs to be even further back and even higher, to even more of an aggressive rear set kind of a stance. But that's really just me personally. Honestly, they are in a comfortable spot. They are in a spot that will make sense for a lot of different sized riders, especially taller people. But with me having a little bit shorter legs, I would actually have liked them to be even further back and even more rear set type of foot pegs on them. Not to say that they're not. They are already in a kind of cafe racery position, but I would have preferred to see them even further back and even up, maybe just a little bit more like a real race rear set would be. Other than that, guys, I don't have any other complaints about this motorcycle after owning for 1 full year. I plan to hang on to this thing for years and years to come. If I get another bike, I may add another one to the stable, but I don't think I probably will ever want to get rid of my Continental GT650. Not unless Royal Enfield comes up with something else very similar, but even more crazy cool or something like that. Maybe I would switch over to that or switch up to that. But as of now, the GT650 has kept me very, very happy. It is a great motorcycle for the types of riding that I like to do. Even if I wanted to do like a classic race series or a 650 twin series with it, I could do that if I changed out some things. But for now, for the way I ride, it's been fantastic. It gets good fuel economy. It's very comfortable for me in the way I'm built. It handles great for what it is. The power is plenty, again, for what it is. The brakes, the transmission, the suspension, it's all adequate. It gets the job done. It is very, very pleasant to ride for a very, very low overall cost, and for what to me so far has been low maintenance and no issues whatsoever. So after a year of owning, I'm still very, very happy with it. Again, your mileage may vary. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from other GT650 owners or Interceptor 650 owners. I had a couple of complaints on them, but honestly, they're very small, nitpicky things. As always, guys, ride safe, have a great day. I'm Alex. Peace.